Hello and welcome to OGD VODCAST number 9. This one is called Third Order. I'm Martin Thibeault and I'm here with Pat Zalewski. We're here in his home in Cairns, Australia in November 2022 and we'll get right into it. So this topic today of Third Order obviously is another controversial topic. It's got a lot of layers to it, a lot of complicated elements. So I'm going to bring up the past and then I'll pass it on to you. Obviously, we know that from the original GD and even into the AO and the ESM, there's always been allusions to contacts with the Third Order, and there's always been a bit of a back and forth between disincarnate entities, spiritual, astral guides, and actual physical people in the flesh. Or whether we're talking about the Araben Shemesh that Falcon was contacting, or Lux et Tenebris that Mathers was meeting in person, making his nose bleed. The Purple Adept, obviously contacted through the spear. Rudolf Steiner, obviously Falcon and Neil Macon going out to Germany and meeting with Rudolf Steiner. So there's been a bit of an interplay between those types of physical versus disincarnate guides for the order. But ultimately, where do you stand with it? Do you feel that the Third Order is just a purely attainable concept? It's the actual guides of the order, or how would you go about breaking this down today?
Well, I've had different viewpoints over the years. When I was at Wellington, I dismissed the Third Order almost outright. I had my hands full with the second. That was enough for me, and I never really thought much about the Third Order as far as what it entailed and everything, just apart from curiosity. I contacted Bethany Jones, who was a former chief of Whare Ra, and I asked her point blank, I said, well, what is the Third Order? She said, well, it's their temple grades, meaning that the grades belong to the temple. And I said, well, what about the master business? She said, no. And, she didn't see it that way, and I didn't either, as such. So what happened was probably about, when I came back to Australia, or about 2002, then I started to see things in a different light, for some reason or another. And I realised that the temple grades that Bethany was talking about were attainable, and I dismissed the Third Order aspect as we know as secret chiefs wearing weird cloaks and talking to people and giving them nosebleeds. I thought that was a little bit not quite my scene. I had been aware that people did clairvoyancy through mediumship, contacted chiefs and they got information that way. Mrs. Falcon did it, others did it. But I thought, well, okay, well, that's them, that's not me. And so I thought, well, what do I do? And I was really stuck as to understand what the Third Order was all about, apart from what Bethany told me, until about 2002, until I started doing the Golden Dawn Correspondence course. Then the whole thing just flowed all the way through. Not only was the Second Order more clear, but also the Third as well. So that took me good 25 years or more before I was even within that range to understand what I consider the Third Order is at the present point in time.
I remember at different stages during the development, you always told me you felt guided, like you felt like you're being pulled through.
I did. A lot of people feel this way, it's not just me. But I produced. That's the difference. It wasn't just someone whispering in my ear. I had to sit down and write the materials for these particular levels. And that was the important thing. Under the GD, Mathers got to 7.4, which is the highest that they would look at. But they were looking at virtually a single tree with the three orders on the tree.
Yeah, I'll bring that up actually. This will be part of the next thing. Sorry to interrupt, but so let's just close off the first segment. Do you feel the GD is actually guided by beings or entities that can be contacted?
Yes, but you're always not going to get it back. You might say you might go and ask something, and you won't always get it back. Well, yes, I think there's a guidance there, and I think it's not only the Third Order. I think many of the things that we do in daily life give us guidance, but specifically, yes, I do believe that we're being guided. People used to come to our house in Wellington and say pretty much the same thing. One of the weirdest things that happened, I was doing a tarot reading, and a lady who was, I didn't know from Borough Soap, she walked by, she said, I'm just starting a circle, and with a group of small people today. And was there anything you would like to know? You're a tarot reader, and so we thought we'd try you out and ask you what the story was. And so I asked a couple of questions about Falcon. She never knew any idea about Falcon. And she came back. I said, well, any guidance from Dr. Falcon and his wife? That's what. And Dr. Falcon, that's what I said, Dr. Falcon. She came back about 2 weeks later. She said, we had a strange meeting, and they said that just tell the truth, and they performed their rituals or their ideology of what a third order was in their own way and the best as they could. And it was really a communication to me straight away, and I was very, very surprised. And she said, what is a golden dawn? I said, well, that's what they remember. She said, yes, it came through. She didn't know me at all. And all of us came through, so there was generally a connection. But I didn't really want to, just because someone has a connection with someone who's long passed and I give them information, that doesn't mean to say that the structure that they do is going to be any better or any worse than anything else. It's not just getting the information, it's applying it to something a little bit more sustainable. And having a third order, which is which most people thought was incarnate order of different souls running around there and giving information across, really is a bit disparaging to people. I didn't want that. I knew the Falcon SM version. They brought in the higher ranks more than matters. Of course, what we do, and Falcon, and even in the GD to a certain extent, we're all in the seer. So really, you don't go up to Bria sipping off archangels. You just don't do that. You're in a seer, and that's where you stay.
That brings me to that next question, actually, that I want to get into.
Okay.
So we know the great structure is on a 4-tree scheme. It's the tree of the sea. At the bottommost tree, you've got all the 10 Sephirot in there, and obviously it's possible to attain all of that because it's all in matter. It's all in the. So we know that people from the original order, for example, Mathers, believed that the 3 was achievable in the flesh because he was meeting with them, apparently, right? He was meeting with people who had achieved that level. We know Falcon thought so as well because he went to Germany and, what he considered people who were A3, and then apparently they received the A3 there, was able to take it into the SM, which we'll get into. Crawley, the same thing. I mean, he even gave Blavatsky, right, an honorary equals 3, but he had those grades in the AA. So we know that people from the original GD, from the AO, from the SM, all had this very clear belief. And then lastly, Carnegie Dixon. Right? He's got a 9 equals 2 as a rank. He's reopening up a temple, merging both the AO and the SM in terms of teachings and membership and so on and so forth. So we have evidence of people who have a lot more experience directly connected to the root than a lot more people in the modern GD today who clearly believed in this. So why do you think that in the modern GD it's such an unachievable thing or an unworkable part of the system?
Well, a lot of it's based on tradition, some of it ignorance, and some of it not understanding the system. I know of people, temple chiefs, who have claimed 9, 2, 8, 3, etc. And good luck to them. None of my business what they claim. But they keep it quiet. I haven't been so quiet on it because I think it has to be looked at. I think this has to be looked at head on. I'm a product of Whare Ra, even though I never attended the temple, but the people there train me, they shape me, and to look at certain things. I met higher ranks of 8, 3 and 9, 2. Can't say I was impressed. But the thing was there was a lack of substance to these particular grades, and whatever was coming through, other than an angelic presence and things like that people spoke about, well, that didn't give you anything. I thought that if you have a high rank in a third order and you have the order in a seer, you should be producing material for those particular levels. And that's pretty much the way I looked at it. And I never really got started on the third order stuff material until probably after about 2002, 2004, something like that. I really didn't work out. I redid the entire second order, rebuilt it based on the Mathers way he did it. Then when I came to the third order, I did exactly the same thing. Instead of these grades being honorary and just temple grades, I made them working grades by producing material for those particular grades. That was most important.
The SM, the way they did it, or at least apparently I haven't seen those, but apparently they did a ritual for the Babe of the Abyss, and then there was another ritual for 8-3 and 9-2 combined.
Yeah.
That was one angle on it. What's your approach with it, and what do you feel can be done today with those particular rituals and this?
Well, you've got to have contact. If you're going to claim third order, you're going to have contact. You're going to have to be able to produce information that is transferable, not just you having a wonderful feeling within yourself, but transferring information to other people, pass it on. That's what I do.
But in terms of initiations, do you feel that having it with Babe and then 8-3-9-2 combined as one is the way to do it, or is it better to have broken down into individual grades?
I'd break them down. That's what I've done. I break them down to 8-3 and 9-2 as separate units. And 10-1 is an acceptable unit, but you're still in the seer, so you still have to produce to get there. Some people may disagree with me. I think the majority would, but that's the way I've got the material. I produced it. It's workable. It goes into we do a lot of energy dynamics and auric levels and things along those lines at the very highest echelon of what I teach, and I work up to that. So that's all laid out in a plan. Originally I was going to go up to 8-3 and leave it at that, but I've opened a couple of extra doors now, and what's happening is that in the system that we use, we go up to 10-1, and we do that very, very deliberately. But we have material covering most of the grades, and we have a little bit of flexibility in the 9-2 and the 10-1 grade. The 10-1, as I mentioned before, is not that you know every darn thing within the order. It means that you have a very good grasp of which direction you're going, how you take the material, how you utilise that material, and away you go. So that's my take on it. My take is not any more valid than anyone else's. They can have their own opinions. But I've seen how these people work at Whare Ra from the chiefs. I know the limitations they had, and I know how they strutted around like peacocks in some cases and never had the training to go with the high levels. But I didn't want to do that. I wanted to have a solid level in the supernals. But I had to have solid 8=3 and a solid Babe of the Abyss, those two levels to get us away from the 7-4.
So the outer order has a strong focus on contemplation, accumulation of theoretical knowledge, if you will. As we get into the inner, there's a much heavier magical focus, of course, and then into the alchemical stuff. What would you say the third order has as a primary, could have as a primary focus in continuity from everything that's been done before?
Well, the third order has to reflect the second in some way. So you still got to look at the alchemy stuff and things along those particular lines, but at a much higher level, because what you're doing and what we do, we're looking at the Sun Order of the Chronic Temple papers had all these auric papers that Brodianus brought in for the 7=4 grade. Well, our levels of 7-4 and 8=3, Babe of the Abyss in particular, I think got about 90 lessons in that, 90 papers at the very least. So, in the Babe of the Abyss. So, we're sort of really putting pressure on our own selves to perform. One of the things is that we look at the subtle bodies, chakras, how they work in ritual, how they work in you, how they're used, and it's not an Indian concept where I've taken everything from Tantra. I haven't. I've tried to take the energetics through the chakras and subtle bodies and apply them through a Golden Dawn format. So I've changed them to suit our particular cultural dynamic.
In the progression of the order, and I don't know if you're going to want to go into this, but in the outer order, we see we get exposed to myths from Egyptian, Judaic, Greek paradigms through the different ceremonies. We work our way up into the Christian myth, even in the inner order. If that's something you're open to discussing, what kind of myth or what kind of angle would you see the third order going into?
Well, you're still into God forms. You're still into archetypes. You still have to. You have to be. Because that guided the order. Because that guides the second order. I'll give some of it away. They are valid just as I go deeper into that within our own teachings. But a little bit low to explain too much on it, to be quite honest. But the higher teachers that we do are very much into subtle bodies, chakras, and how they work within ritual, and therefore you can expand on what's in the second order to bring it out. And also alchemy as well, higher aspects of alchemy. So there's that's not everything we do, it's just some of the things that we do. They're the primary points that we work on. And I've adapted the situations to suit. And as a angle to look at it, I thought long and hard about what the Cromley Temple had, and their aura papers are very, very good to a certain extent. They're very lackluster, but they're up to you to make more of it, what you actually want. But I did my own. I started from scratch on each one.
So in conclusion, unless you want to take this to another place, but in conclusion, you feel the order is guided, but it might be a bit tricky to try and engage and communicate with entities like this. The grades are definitely not just temple grades or workable grades. The whole of the third order, as reflected by people in the original GD, the SM, and the AO, are definitely grades that are attainable and can be worked. The whole trees in ASEA, and there should be material for all the grades all the way up to Ipsissimus. And is there anything else you want to add to that? Anything else?
Well, that sums it up basically. Yeah, that's a fair summation. I have, when people say you claim 10-1, I think, well, you're mad, but that's only based on what they know. And I thought pretty much the same thing until I got to a point where I wanted to, where I had to do that. I had to write these things up. So whatever's guiding me, I really have no idea, but it's making me work these. It's producing material for me.
Oh, like a madman. You're producing a lot.
Well, even on our local forum, I'm publishing about one.
Oh, if you're not guided, I don't know what's pulling you through, but there's a lot of knowledge coming through there.
Yeah. But anyway, look, it's still my interpretation of it. It's not necessarily the way, it's a way. And that's the point I want to drive home. If someone else is not satisfied with it, that's up to them. But I've proved my point, I've produced it. The material's written down. As I said, we've got at least 90 lessons in the Babe of the Abyss. So there's a lot there. And a lot of it is to do with subtle bodies, how they connect with us. And that, you've got to look at that. You just can't keep looking at things from a mythological viewpoint. Someone's going to guide me, and not look at the subtle bodies, the energy. Because all of that is energy dynamics within you. By looking at the energy dynamics within you, you bring this thing out and you're able to utilize it, focus it, cast a net around it, bring it in when you want to, throw it out when you need to.
Well, I will say this, in my own progression through the second order and working my way into the third order, I'm really glad you didn't make my nose bleed.
Yeah. Look, this is, because the hard and fast people, the black and whiters, they say, well, 7 course are highest, so I won't go any further than that. Falcon well and truly cracked that ceiling. And though his knowledge as far as what they had to do for those levels was very vague, he'd be given a sheet of paper to work on, was very vague, but they worked on it. But I wanted something a little bit more substantive. And that's one of the reasons that I brought all of this 10-1 stuff in. Now, I don't care how much criticism I get, people are saying it, but that's, I put my money where my mouth was in terms of text and also in terms of direction.
Well, the third order is not even that high when you think that Wade already created the fourth order.
Your Wade was doing 10-1 rituals, I think, for his order. So it's not a new concept. I've gone as far as what we have. It's taken me a journey of over 40 years to get where it was. I was stuck on 7-4 for 20-something years at least. And before I decided to claim the higher ranks as I went through them, and and wrote the papers for them. But it's not just a matter of writing papers, giving you direction, it's a matter of giving you full information on how to use them. Because papers are one thing, but you've got to use that material and make it part of your daily life, and you've got to be able to fold it back in, looking at the second order. I once spoke to one person who claimed third order AO, who claimed to have met some sort of a chief. I won't name the person. And I said, he said he met the person who gave Mathers some grades.
Oh yeah,
I said,
in Paris, right?
I said, yeah, I said, congratulations. I said, what information did they give you? Did they give you more information on the second order and things like that? No, they don't do that. My question to this particular person was, what bloody good are they? They give you no information. You know, you sit there and feel good about it and have an orgasm. Who knows? That's the way it is. If people want to claim these things, fine, as long as they produce it. As long as they produce it. That's the main thing.
All right. Well, we're going to wrap it up. Nice, short and sweet. Thanks for sharing your thoughts on the third order, and we'll see you all on the next one.
Okay.